Right now, 5 suspicious devices were found, 5, in a backpack near a New Jersey train station on Sunday night. This after an explosion in New York City's Chelsea area on Saturday. Adam Shapiro right now live in Chelsea with the very latest. Adam, good morning to you.
Good morning, Maria. And of course, Chelsea, or West 23rd Street here in Midtown Manhattan, is where all of this began late Saturday around 8:30 in the evening. But let's start with the immediate headlines regarding what happened in Elizabeth, New Jersey, which is just over the river, not far from this location. The train station there and the backpack, which contained up to 5 what's being described as pipe bombs. Police did attempt to detonate one of those bombs when there was a problem. And as the mayor of Elizabeth, New Jersey explains, one of them detonated.
There were multiple devices inside that backpack. One of those devices was being cut in order to disarm it, and as you all heard, the explosion occurred. So the other devices, I don't know what the FBI and the state police are doing at this moment, but they are trying to remove them.
Now, that happened late last night on Sunday evening after 10 p.m. According to New Jersey Transit, train service early this morning has been restored, so the hundreds of thousands of people who ride the different train lines into Manhattan will be able to do that. The train service has been restored. There is also a report that the FBI has taken into custody 5 men in one car. It's believed they may be from the same family in connection with the investigation here in Manhattan for the device which exploded on West 23rd Street and for the other device which was found on West 27th Street. Remember, that device did not explode, and police have identified what they're calling a person of interest who was seen on surveillance video, perhaps moving that device. So that's the latest from West 23rd Street. To recap the headlines, 5 men, potential suspects, not being identified as that, in custody, taken into custody last night. 5 devices. One of them exploded at a train station in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and the original explosion scene here on West 23rd Street still secure, and the investigation continues. Maria?
All right, Adam, we'll get back to you as news develops. Thank you. Adam Shapiro is in Chelsea this morning. Joining us right now is Carl Higbee. He is a former Navy SEAL and Great America PAC spokesperson. Good to see you, Carl. Thanks very much for joining us. Do you think that there are more attacks coming? What do you know so far, and what does this tell you about where we are?
Well, there's been so many, and I don't know if it's on the heels of the UN conference that's here in New York City, or if it's just, a pattern of a new norm that we need to get used to and start combating. But I think it's funny that all these authorities have said, it's not international terrorism, but we don't know anything about it.
Right. And Steve, we've got 5 people right now in custody being questioned. That's what they're saying. They're being questioned. But they will not tell us the ethnicity of these individuals or what else we know.
Well, we've been talking about this all weekend. And Carl, you and I have had these conversations. Last night, when the mayor of New York, the police commissioner, and the governor got on TV, it was so difficult for them to utter the words terrorist act, terrorism. And if I may, Carl, what do you make of that? I mean, our leaders are being challenged worldwide. Their authority is being challenged. And here we have even local government leaders who just can't come to grips that these are terrorist acts.
Yeah, and the fact is, it doesn't have to be Islamic to be terrorism. I mean, you could have a moron from the Bronx blowing up trash cans, and that's still terrorism. I mean, I don't know what they can't understand about this.
And Maria, we've always said to people, if you see something, say something. Obviously, in Elizabeth, a couple of people saw things. But to your point, why not tell us?
Even the woman who spotted the second bomb, undetonated bomb in Chelsea in the pressure cooker, there was a woman who saw it on the side of the street, and she called the cops and said, this doesn't look right.
That's the importance of that. But transparency is important. To your point, Maria, we need to know the ethnicity of people. We need to know their background, where they're from. The reluctance to give us this information is very troubling.
Yeah.
But I think we have to nail down all the details. They have to nail down the details before they start putting names out there, because you don't want to defame people before you actually know whether they were actually involved.
This is not about people. This is about just using the word terrorism. And when you detonate, or when a bomb goes off in the middle of the largest city in the United States and it's loaded with shrapnel, it's meant to kill. That's a terrorist act.
That's terrorism.
Anyone here disagrees that that's terrorism. The question is whether you start calling it Islamic terrorism or something else.
But they were having a hard time even saying terrorism.
De Blasio
that's why it's bothersome.
De Blasio did not use that word. He used intentional act.
Intentional act.
Well,
He did not say
a new one.
terrorism.
Well, to that point, they also used this was a criminal violent act, and that is what troubles me. It goes back to Fort Hood. It's always workplace violence. It's a criminal act. We are at war, and until we wake up and realize that we are at war, we're not going to be fighting this war with the tools we need to win.
The authorities are trying to see if there is a connection. Minnesota, Seaside Heights, Manhattan, Elizabeth, New Jersey. Do any of these have characteristics of a lone wolf terrorist, or do you think that they could be the work of a smaller group, Carl?
Well, I think we know firsthand that there are terrorist groups operating here in America. I mean, we know that firsthand. The problem is, are they organized enough to carry out these attacks? And I think this is becoming very apparent that they are. They are starting to organize. And this could, I mean, they had five people arrested?
And it could be just inspired by.
Yeah.
Well, and we know that this was Islamic terror in Minnesota.
Yes, they're
we?
celebrating. They've taken responsibility. They said that is an ISIS soldier.
But a question that needs to be answered, Carl, is was there an execute order this week? I mean, these aren't coincidences. This seems like some coordinated effort that maybe fouled up a little bit. But what do you think of that? Was there an execute order given?
Well, and we don't know. And that's part of the problem here is we're not waging the social war against this. I mean, you have a small fraction of Islam that is radicalized, but then you also have a large part that is willing to stand idly by and allow it to happen without saying anything to the local authorities. And that's the social war we need to start waging here.
We have not heard from President Obama on the bombings yet. Now, he did make some comments at a campaign rally that you should vote for Hillary Clinton, otherwise I'm going to be insulted and my legacy will be insulted. He also said that, people are uncomfortable with a powerful woman. He's calling it sexism in the campaign. No word, though, on the bombing, Stegan.
Right, and I always think back in terms of the president and a lot of our elected leaders, how they respond to these acts, and his kind of go-to is to ignore or dismiss them. And remember the Atlantic interview that he did where it goes into that he frequently tells his advisors that more people die in bathtub falls than in terrorism in the United States. And it goes to the point of Americans know that anybody is potentially a target at this point. And I think New Yorkers know that, particularly after the 15th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks. But after a shooting, we always hear from him about what we need to do in terms of gun control.
That's
but
right.
what about what we need to do to fight terrorism in the United States, regardless of who is behind it? But what are we doing to end this, to stop this? Let's talk about that.
You talk about bathroom falls. It's not like there's a coordinated global conspiracy to hurt people in bathtubs.
I raise it because you're all saying they're afraid to mention terrorism. This is why. The president won't raise it.
Right.
So why would local officials feel comfortable raising it?
And the people are uncomfortable with weakness, with a apology, always apologizing to our enemies. They want strength. They want a response. And you're right, Maria, it begins at the top at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
Carl, good to see you.
Yeah, thank you very much
so much for joining us. We appreciate it this morning. We've got a lot coming up this morning, a lot to get to. World leaders are getting